Well, welcome everybody to our home. I'm Maggie Riley. This is my husband, John. And we just want to thank you for being here. When we first thought of doing this, we thought, oh, it'll be nice to have a nice open house with the gardens and have a real party. But we're still very happy and glad that everybody's able to make it today to share our experience with you. If you do have a request for an in-person, we have done some in-person tours. So if you want to do that, I will put my contact information in the chat and please feel free to contact us. So that would be fine. So John and I decided to do this, and basically we're here today to tell you why and how we transitioned off fossil fuels and onto renewables. So first, maybe more of the personal reasons as to why we did this. Many of you know I'm an environmental engineer, and I've been an advocate for protecting the environment for many years, if not most of my life. But in the last 10 to 15 years, John and I have become very active and dedicated to mitigating the effects of climate change. And now that we're grandparents of 3 beautiful grandchildren, we feel obligated to reduce our carbon footprint the most we can. Also, from a personal standpoint, being a climate activist, I felt that it was just the right thing for us to do, and that we needed to make major changes in our lives just to align more with what we believe in. So as everybody knows, a very effective way to mitigate climate change is to eradicate the burning of fossil fuels. So that's why it is really important to John and I to do this. So that's more of our personal reasons for doing it. For bigger picture reasons, we wanted to use the house as an example. Even though we're only one household, we thought start small, but think big. We wanted to use a traditional 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath home and show how you can significantly reduce your carbon footprint. And John's going to go over that in a little bit, but you'd be surprised how much you can lessen your carbon footprint by doing something like this. And because heating and cooling and transportation are the 2 biggest contributors to climate change, that's where we concentrated our efforts. So what we're going to do today together, we'll explain how we did it. We'll give you a timeline. John's going to go over the costs, and we'll tell you the benefits of doing something like this. We're going to give you a tour. And then John's got a couple really cool apps that he likes to use with our system. He'll go over those, and then we can return back here, what we call our garden room, and answer any questions that you might have. And if you come up with questions afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us. We would be more than happy to go over that with you. But before we get into it, we would be remiss if we didn't thank the people that helped us along the way. Our children, Shannon and Tom, have our daughter and her husband have air source heat pumps in Vermont, and they had them before we ever had them. So we thought that was pretty cool. And our son, Patrick and Maggie, who are on there today, hello, they have encouraged us the whole way to do this. And Patrick actually helped with the renovation. He helped us replace all the windows upstairs, our hardwood floors. And as we go through the kitchen, you'll see some of his fine woodworking in the kitchen. So thanks to our kids for continual encouragement and Patrick's inspiration to do all this. So we'd also like to thank some of our very dear friends who are on here who have gone through this with us, witnessed it, and hopefully, as we said to some of them, that we hope that we can share the house with everyone in the future. But thanks for your encouragement. And everyone from Heat Smart, Lindsay, John, Allison, Anna. Lindsay was actually the first person that I ever contacted about this, and I was working on the CCPA, and Lindsay was there, and she was a great help and has continued to be a real asset for us. And we can't speak more highly about the contractors that we had NP Environmental first with Nick Proputnowitz, but Kevin Sedgwick and his crew, they are extremely professional, extremely knowledgeable, and just enjoyable people to work with. They were invaluable to this transition. But also we had CNY Solar. They were very professional and knowledgeable in their group. Matt from Halco, even though we didn't go with him, he was also very helpful. So if you're looking at it, get yourself a good contractor, and I would recommend NP or Halco, since I know them. Also, as I tell my climate activist friends who are always with me and us and encouraging us along the way, you know, the silver lining with all this climate work is basically all the great people that we have met and all the great friendships that we've made. You know, a grassroots group of people who share a passion like this can definitely, it can be impactful, and the journey along the way can be very enjoyable. So thank you to everybody who helped us and continues to help us. So I guess we'll go on to the how did we do this? And John and I the other day, when we sat down to think about it, we go, well, what was the first thing that we actually did? And when did we do it? With the pandemic, it's been very difficult to keep track of time. But the first thing we did was actually decide to stay in the house. And I guess, you know, we looked at our budget. You can't do this without looking at your budget. And we decided we could do it, but there is something that we wanted to mention, that when it comes to cost, there are a lot of people out there, homeowners, that are in the low and moderate income bracket. And we really believe that if we start this, people who can afford to do it, there needs to be assistance for people who cannot do it. These are probably the people that were hit by climate change the most. And we really feel strongly that, you know, the programs in our state and country need to help out those people that in a system that are in the lower income brackets. But so the timeline, so we did decide to stay in the house after our kids left, and we basically were not going to leave the garden. So for those of you who know us, we are avid gardeners. I am by choice. John is by default.
I dig a lot.
He digs a lot. So that first big transition, we got rid of our gas mower, replaced it with electric battery, along with all our garden equipment. We did that in 2017, we think, but we got all our garden supply done by 2020. As I said, Patrick helped us replace the windows upstairs. We did that late 2016, early 2017. And then we started remodeling the kitchen first, basically the back of the house, which in the long run worked out well because it's now a very open space and it really helps. John will show you with that air source heat pump. It basically does the whole room. But this is part of what made us convert. Was we went downstairs looking at the boiler, and we needed to reposition our vent for the boiler because we were told that the boiler we had was really supposed to be vented out a chimney. And since we don't have a chimney in the house, the original owner vented it directly out underneath our kitchen window. And when we had someone come in to replace the boiler because of the age of it, he said, you're going to have to put it at the end of the house and vent that out as far away from a window as possible. And I'm like, you know, I wasn't stupid. I figured I knew why, but I said, how come? And he said, because there's basically toxic gas that comes out of that vent. So you're going to have to do that. And that really solidified us to say, we aren't going to burn fossil fuels anymore. So no matter how efficient you do emit toxic gas. And so we went on our quest. John's the researcher. We went on our quest of figuring out an alternative to fossil fuels. And that's when we met Lindsay, and we really talked to a lot of people. It was still back in the beginning of 2019. And so we weren't ready to jump to convert to air source heat pumps yet, but that was definitely in the back of our minds. We did look at geothermal. That was a little expensive, and really on our small property, we weren't able to do that. So the kitchen got remodeled in 2018. The lease was up on our car. We knew we wanted to get an electric car. John had a plug-in hybrid already. And that's when we bought our Tesla in May of 2019. Then we decided that if we're going to have all this electric equipment in the house, we want to go solar. So we had to replace the roof. It was 30 years old. We replaced the roof in late summer of 2019. And then we put the solar on in early fall. And we started generating power December of 2019. John's going to show you a really cool app that we have for that. So we do generate the majority of our own power with our solar. And then we installed the heat pumps in summer of 2020. That's when NP came. We did add this addition on the garden room, and we would only do that if we could use air source heat pumps. And so NP came back. We finished that up the end of 2020. NP came back and put in an air source heat pump here. We finished the addition and re-sided the house in summer of 2021. And one of the big things we just did, took us 30 years to do it, but we did just insulate the entire downstairs, the basement. And we hope that will make a big improvement. Some of the things we still need to do, we still have a few windows in the front of the house we need to replace. We need to replace our front door, and we still have to replace our gas stove. But once we do that, we're going to actually unhook the gas to the house. That will be a big day. So that we're looking forward to. Just some other points of interest for people that are interested. The first thing that we would say to have done if you're interested is to have an energy audit because you need to see how airtight your house is. So that would be the first thing. We also want to dispel a couple myths. The first one being that we really do produce a lot of energy off our solar panels, almost enough to heat this for all our electricity in the house. So that is a myth that you can't have enough power generated in our area. The other myth is that the air source heat pumps don't heat your house as well as you would like in the winter. We had an extremely cold January and February, and we had absolutely no problem heating the house. It's a big house, and the air source heat pumps, they did fine. So there are cool climate air source heat pumps. The the heat is extremely consistent. We love it. Our hot water is much better with this system. It doesn't go cold when you're taking a shower. So we really, really like it. Some of the things that are a little bit different, we hope get better. We were using a industrial size dehumidifier in the basement. We don't have to, we're hoping not to have to do that anymore. So that should save on electricity. If we compare our old cost to our new cost, John and I are both working from home that we were not doing before the pandemic. So we're using a little bit more, and the house is heated constantly. For those of you that are gardeners in the group, I know that's not part of this presentation, but if anybody would like to know, we are also working on a very large transition outside that has to do with our native gardening, our Wild Ones group. So maybe at the end, we'll talk about that. But I'm going to turn this over to John, who is showing me up with a very nice PowerPoint presentation. But so off you go.
So that way you don't have to look at me. So I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we have that going. So basically we have I'm going to go through and present more of the details about what we've done. So as you can see, this photo that's in front of you right now, you can see barely see the solar array that's up top. And so we'll still start with there, talking about everything that we've done with that. So the solar cost, to give you an idea, we started with CNY Solar. First day of operation was on the 4th of December in 2019. So there's 36 panels up on the roof, 310 watts for a total output of 11.2 kilowatts. over the years, the last 2 years that we've had it, we've generated just over 13 megawatt hours for 2020, and just less than 900 kilowatt hours less than that for last year. It wasn't quite as nice a year last year. You can see all the information I have there for the systems cost. And basically the bottom line is that it was a $10,000, almost $11,000 system after you take into account the credits and the rebates that we had. So it was actually really good. Part of the rebate that that we had was basically taking into account half of the cost of our replacement of the roof. So that actually bumped that number up a little bit, which was kind of nice. So we could actually able to get part of our roof paid for that when we did that, which was really good. The next thing to talk about is some of the air source heat pump costs. NP was our contractor. The first day everything went operational was on 8/19. There was one more unit, as Maggie talked about a little bit earlier, that went in a little bit later after we added in the garden room. And as you can see, the bottom line on that is about $25,000 what we wound up paying for. We have a 0% loan that we use to finance it. It's really worthwhile to take a look for any of these projects to see what financing is available to you. And just for comparison's sake, as Maggie talked about, we had to move the boiler, which meant we were going to have to move the hydronic equipment because we have hot water baseboard, and all that information, all that moving taken into account, as well as the cost of the boiler, is going to be about $18,000. So this system actually wasn't a lot more expensive. Bottom line, obviously not everyone has that amount of cost. Most boilers are sub $10,000. So just to give you an idea and we obviously had to change the vents that Maggie talked about. So it's a little bit different system than you would normally have. So that boiler in and of itself is a little bit more expensive. The other thing too is that we were not very efficient. Our efficiency on the boiler that we had was right around 70 or 75%. So it was really worthwhile to do the change. So one of the things that I did is I went on to the EPA calculator to try to give you an idea. So the previous configuration that we had, gas boiler, hot water baseboard, hot water tank, in-window air conditioners, and a mid-size internal combustion engine vehicle. And so I didn't take into account the one vehicle that I had, and that was about 30,000 pounds of CO2 per year. Now we go to what we have now with the solar panels, the air source heat pumps for heating and cooling, as well as for the hot water heater, the Tesla, and this takes into account all household usage, in-house car charging, which is like 95% of the charging that we do. And that's only 3,000 pounds of CO2 a year. So a 10 times reduction, which is pretty substantial. And for us, even though there is a cost aspect to this, a financial aspect, we think this is probably one of the more important parts of what we've done so far. Of course, everyone is interested in what the yearly operating costs are. Right now, the gas and electric for the previous system was about $1,300 per year. And now, since we only have electric, it's about $800, and that takes into account the net metering with the solar. So since we generate somewhere on the order of 90 to 95% of our electricity needs, we're able to not obviously pay for that. The other item, as Maggie talked about, our starting is that we decided to go with the Ego battery operated equipment. So all this is battery operated. You just basically recharge the batteries. Start off with a lawnmower, and contrary to urban myth, I guess, is that it does a very good job. I've had absolutely no problems at all cutting the lawn. Even in the spring when it's long and it's wet, it still does a really good job. Our pole saw, which Maggie calls a chainsaw on a stick, and a hedge trimmer. We have interchangeable batteries, and it takes about an hour. There's a larger size battery that the mower uses, and it's about an hour to recharge it. So it's all you have to do is remember, you can't go out and, like you used to, is like, oh, I want to mow the lawn and fill it up, top it off. You have to actually go through and do a little bit of planning ahead of time, but only by an hour. So it's not that bad. So one of the things that CMY Solar set up with was there was an app that helps. It's AP Systems has this EMA app, and it allows you to go through and get a look at the information is supposed to be instantaneous. You can see on this left-hand side, it shows the this is actually this morning. So even it's just about as overcast as it is right now, we're still generating 4 kilowatts of power. And already had generated, this is, I want to say 10 o'clock or so, something like that. We had already generated 8.5 kilowatt hours. So it's pretty substantial. And then the next one over the middle photo shows you basically the daily for the last 30 days. It shows you the output of the system. As you can see, in January, we had a little bit of really overcast days as well as snow-covered days. So that is one of the things you have to deal with your solar array is during the winter, you will have times where it's cloudy and or the solar is covered by snow. We have one of the things that we had to deal with was every once in a while during the middle of the day, you hear this loud thud where the snow is falling off of the solar arrays, which is a good thing. The final one shows you the output over the years. You can see you have the nice curve. It's only down a little bit lower during the middle of the during the middle of the winter, and then it picks right back up, and you have about 7 or 8 months of really good production. So now what we'll do is go through a little bit of detail on the actual units that we have installed. So exterior, we have 2.5 ton Mitsubishi hyper heat systems. Very, very quiet. You can walk by them. The only reason you know they're on is because you can feel, especially during the winter, it's a little bit chilly as you walk by it. It, as Maggie alluded to, it easily warmed the whole house when it was well below zero. We had temperatures, I think we recorded minus 12 or 13 or so, something like that, and still no problem at all. Then the interior units, we have 2 different types. As you see up top is the classic mini split, and the one on the bottom is the floor model. For the mini splits, we have 3 different output units. One is a 6,000 BTU, that's here in this garden room. Then we have 2 12,000 BTU, one in the dining room that will show that heats most of the downstairs, along with one down in the basement. We have 2 9,000 BTU units mounted upstairs in the master bedroom on one end of the house, and then is basically the office that I use. It's a spare bedroom at the opposite end. And then finally up in the front room is the floor mounted units, a 12,000 BTU unit. The final part of the puzzle is the air source heat pump hot water heater. It's a 50-gallon A.O. Smith hot water heater. It's a hybrid system. It uses both electricity and an air source heat pump. That black unit up on top is the air source heat pump. We decided to have it vented when we first had it installed. The temperature in the basement, because it basically takes out heat from the air that it pulls through the exchanger. The air coming back out is much colder, and so our basement was becoming much colder. So we just had them come back and vent that back out. If you want to, you can run in all electric mode. There's very little reason to do that, but there's also a vacation mode available so that if you are going away, it will use very, very little electricity. So here's the cool apps that we have. The first one is one that our daughter and son-in-law, they wound up getting Sensibo Air. And it's basically a unit, as you can see in the left-hand picture. It's just a small, probably about 2.5 by 2.5 inches. It gets mounted somewhere in the room in direct line with the unit, with the mini split unit. Then you have app control. So you can go through, you can see that on the right-hand side, very easy, just simple control of every aspect of the unit. So basically what we do is we use that rather than the remote that was provided by Mitsubishi, which is, it's okay to use, but this is much easier. The installation was simple, and you can control the mini splits from anywhere in the world or anywhere in the house. So if you happen to go upstairs and Maggie said, "Did you turn that off in the garden room?" we can make sure. The other aspect is the scheduling is much easier with the Mitsubishi remote. You can just control whether the unit goes on and off, and also the temperature. With this, you can set not only the temperature and whether it goes on or off, but you can also say how much you want it to be pushing, how much air you want it to be pushing out. So you want it to be a low speed or a high speed, or any of the others in between, as well as the direction that it comes out of. That makes a difference for during the middle of the night, for example. So we really like that. It really has made a huge difference in how we manage these systems, the mini splits. And that what? Sorry.
You can undo now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll stop sharing. And so
then I think what we're going to do next is we're going to go on the tour. So we are going to mute and stop sharing or turn our speakers off. And then Anna is actually our videographer, and we are going to have her follow us around the house. At times you're going to see the house, so you can see how big a room is. You just turn this off, right? No. Okay. Right. And so see you in a couple. Is it working, Anna?
I think so. Can everyone hear us?
We can hear you.
We can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. They can hear us.
All right, so the first unit I want to show you is up here on the wall. It's mounted. Obviously, we have fairly high ceilings, about normal 10-foot ceilings in here. And so we've gone through and mounted this one up high. This is the last unit that was put in by CNY Solar after we added it. Yes, thank you. So they've done a good job at making it fairly seamless. Most people don't even realize it's in here at all. So this is one of the lower power ones, 6,000 BTU.
We just truthfully, we don't use this one very often.
No.
We turn it on at night because we eat in here at night. But during the day with the sunlight, with all the windows, for heating, we really don't need it. And then for air conditioning, we don't air condition a lot, and this room has windows. We just open the windows. So believe it or not, these are like having 6 different zones in the house.
Yeah.
We turn this one off most of the time.
Yeah.
So you can save a lot of energy that way.
And the other thing I wanted to show you is up on the wall over here is where the sensor board is on the opposite side. It's a small little unit. You can see it's smaller. It's actually smaller than the size of the switch that's next to it. So it's really conspicuous, and it's kind of nice to be able to have that instead of have that direct line of sight to the unit. So now what we'll do is we'll go through the kitchen, to the big kitchen area, and on to the front room, and we'll show you the unit that's up there on the floor model. So this one's actually running right now. You might be able to hear it. It's fairly quiet. That's on high speed right now. And so this one, the only thing that we found with this is that it's located in this front area, which goes right upstairs to the upstairs of the house. And some of the heat actually goes up and it warms it up. So there's a benefit in that it does heat some of the upstairs, but also it doesn't tend to go through the whole house quite as much as we would like. There's an office that Maggie's in over to the side here that it would be nice if it was a little bit more. So we're thinking possibly of mounting it up on the opposite wall and having a wall unit up there. It's one of those things that's really difficult to get the airflow correct. And he did a great job. And we basically, with changing the vents, we've been able to get it to sort of mostly stays down here. But it's just one of those things where you have to hopefully If you have an open concept, it's much easier, but we have a lot of cut-up rooms down up in the front of here.
But if you like, having the heat more towards the bottom, I would say,
Yeah.
and you have a room that this would benefit, this room in the front is like really nice.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it's very, very, very nice, yeah. So that's the only floor.
Yeah, it's the only floor mount. So now what we'll do is we'll go up into the kitchen area. So,
Going to the dining room.
so as Maggie said, we did do a remodel. This used to be, it's almost 60 feet from end to end. And we basically opened up, there used to be 3 separate rooms here. And so what we've done is gone through and created one big long room, which is a great thing to do with air source heat pumps. This is the larger unit, the 12,000 BTU unit. Actually, I think Lindsay wanted me to go through and show you. So this is how you go through and actually get at the filters. They pop right out. Just take a vacuum to them, and then you can pop them back in.
We just cleaned them yesterday.
Oh, no, we clean them all the time.
You should, I mean, I don't know how often you do, but depending on how much you're using them.
Yeah, it's probably on the order of every two or 3 months. I mean, I check them every once in a while to see how bad they are. But this unit basically throws air right across. You can tell when it's on. There's a little wind chime that's over here that got to go. But it's really nice. It really has a consistent temperature right through. The only thing that we ever do, like Maggie mentioned, is the garden room that's at the far end. We once in a while we'll turn that on in the evening just to warm that end of the house up just a little bit more. But generally speaking, during the middle of the day, we don't need it at all.
And it's not like you feel this big gust of wind come through. Someone had said they wanted more of a consistent, and we're like, no, we're definitely consistent, and it does not blow air across the room.
You don't feel it.
You don't feel it, and you really don't hear it like it's on right now.
Yeah.
And you just don't hear them. So they're very, very quiet, very efficient, and the heat is extremely consistent.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we should tell them about these? I think there might not.
I don't think so. I think what we're going to do is go downstairs and we'll show you a little bit of what was on down there. There's a unit down there as well as the hot water.
You mentioned too that you had a lot of these were not.
Yeah. So this is the unit that we have down here. Again, this is one of the larger units. This area is a little bit broken up. It's not quite as open as upstairs. But this will warm up you'll see the 2 rooms that we'll walk through that are the finished rooms down here. This room has been here for a little while, but this was a really nice addition. It warms up this room, and it's great when we come down here. One of the things that Maggie did point out is that one of the reasons we went with this, we did not have ductwork in the house. We had hot water baseboard. And so if you do have ductwork, you can get a unit that sits down in your basement and uses that ductwork in order to have the hot air go through. So you don't have to have these with an air source heat pump unit.
And it probably would make it cheaper. I'm sure Kevin can talk to this, but if you have the ductwork in the house, it would make it cheaper because you can utilize that ductwork. But the one nice thing, we had hot water baseboards. We never had like air conditioning in the house. And we never turned air conditioning on at night because we would have a window unit and it would keep you up all night. So to turn these on, and they almost immediately heat or cool the room that you're in. It really is a great system.
Yeah.
And we've never had heat in the basement ever, other than the boiler. The day that Kevin said, May, we're ready to take the boiler out, I'm like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, we're either doing it or we're not. So John said, time to take it. So the boiler's gone and the heat pumps are in.
Yeah, and I should mention the cost that I went through. That did include the removal of the boiler and some other items I indicated on the slide there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. So Now, this is a room in transition. As Maggie pointed out, we just recently went through and had the wall board put up along with 4 inches of insulation, I think R16 or R18, I can't remember which they went through. So we've already noticed a big difference in just the humidity level that's down here, as well as how well the heat gets held when we do turn on the heater down here. It used to be it would drop down below 50, like we've had a couple of nights where it's dropped down to about 0 outside, and the temperature down in here would drop to about 50. Now it's at about 55 pretty consistently, because the back end of the house actually is open. There's a door over a little ways down, so we actually have, you know, it's not all dirt all the way around, so we don't have that insulation entirely. So what we'll do first is take a look at the hot water heater. This is an A.O. Smith. It's a 50-gallon unit. As you can see on the top is where the air source heat pump is. We have the vent that's going out, as we mentioned. There's actually a little pump that's down by the side. That's a bunch of the air source heat pumps are actually hooked up to that so that any condensate can go out and be collected and go out to the drain that we have. I mentioned it's pretty easy up here to be able to go through and change it between the different modes that they have available and to set the temperature that your water is going to be at. So it's pretty basic operations, but it's really useful, you know, easy to do. So that's about all for that. And then the last thing, which isn't very interesting at all, basically went through because our main board was filled, went through and we had to have one board for our solar and another for all of the mini splits and the air source heat pump system. So that's all been, that was the only real addition that we had to do as far as, you know, electrical system was concerned. So other than that, the control is, so the solar, it's all through an app, so you don't have any kind of additional equipment to do that.
So, you know, the only other thing you're gonna show them around is the outside,
Right,
unit.
yeah.
And the one thing about the outside unit is a lot of people are worried about the lines because we have the mini splits. We have no lines on the front of the house, only a couple, and like John said, they look like gutters. So
Yeah.
to us,
Yeah.
it's inconspicuous, so. We'll go back upstairs. This is the second room. These two rooms are kind of separate, but right now we can tell that we have that air source heat pump on. This is a lot warmer than we've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
The kids are probably like, and now you go ahead and do all this stuff to the house? Yeah. That's okay.
And actually, the nice thing is that from this room, you can actually, so we don't have to go outside in the,
Little windy today.
so you can see there's one of the units on the left side of the house and another right here on the right side. And even during the summer when we have these, if we have these windows open, you can't hear it because we sometimes close the doors in here and don't air condition while we air condition the rest of the house. Nothing on, you can't even hear them.
Yeah. We were worried because the other one is very close to our neighbor's deck and they're out all the time
Yeah.
and you can't hear that
No.
at all.
Yeah.
Did you want to show them the lines that go up? That's about all we have. NP Environmental did enclose some inside the garage for us, but it just looks like a gutter system basically. So I think they did a really nice job on the outside with the mini split. So we're gonna shut off the camera there and we'll turn our computer back on. We'll answer any questions.
John, had you ever considered using the tankless water, the on-demand tankless?
We just, did somebody have a question?
Oh, I'm Donna Goodwin. I'm asking you a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, did you ever consider the tankless water heater that's the on-demand?
Yes, the problem that we saw is that the ones that really are effective are gas powered, and the electric ones.
They told us we're high maintenance,
They're-
right?
Yeah, they're high maintenance,
Yeah.
and they also use a lot of electricity.
But truthfully, with this, it takes a few minutes for it to warm up. But once it does, like we can take a shower back to back and there's no lack of hot water whatsoever. So we're pleased with it. But yeah, a lot of people have asked that. Yeah. I don't know who's controlling the chat here. So,
I can help facilitate this.
okay, thanks.
Not a problem. So I do see, Celeste, you've got your hand up. We'll cut to you. I wanted to answer some of the questions in the chat first. So Jennifer's asking, what is the delta on net metering? What do you pay versus what they pay you?
So
We pay a little bit more than they pay us.
no, they don't. So we don't get anything from them at all. So basically the way the net metering works is that they go through and we generate, like, for example, last year we generated 11.2 megawatt hours and used 13 point something. I can't remember exactly the number. So we were under, and they only wind up reconciling once a year. So it wound up, so because there was more, we wound up not getting any money back. We
But
just don't pay for it.
Right. But if we did, like, say we generated 13 and only used 11, they don't pay you as much as you pay them. It's kind of like retail and commercial. We pay more for our electricity than if we were to get a reimbursement back from net metering. They would pay it less, definitely less.
Right. And one thing that's important to know, particularly for people who do heat pumps, you can now set your anniversary month on solar to 0. And so basically you can keep accumulating the credits. You have to tell the utility you want to do that. But that's really useful, particularly with heat pumps, so you don't accidentally have yourself zeroed out at some time during the year when you actually really want to use those credits.
You can go on vacation January and February and not use as much. And go on vacation mode someday.
So the next question along those lines, if you had a battery, e.g. a power wall, how much closer to net zero could you get to?
We wouldn't, because basically what winds up happening is that when we're generating electricity that we're not using, it goes back out and our meter runs backwards, actually. So if we're using less energy than we're generating, we send it back out onto the grid. And that's where the net metering comes in.
But we have thought of getting a storage wall. It's just expense is basically it.
Yeah, the main reason that I would say right now that because we generate less energy than what we use, the main reason would be for backup, in case there was a problem where the grid went down.
Next question, which units actually produce the heat? The exterior ones or the interior ones?
The exterior ones. Yeah, that's where the heat exchange happens. It's where the condenser is outside. And so that basically there's it's a liquid / gas that's in the lines. And as that, in the winter, it compresses, the compressor actually goes through and it will go and that warms up the liquid and compresses it. That goes over through the mini split system and it blows air over the, as you probably could see when I took out when I opened up the unit there, that it's similar, the fins that are on there, it's similar to what you would have with a hot water baseboard system, except for much smaller lines going through there, and it blows the air over it, and that heats up the air, and that's what gets blown out. And then that condensed liquid then goes to a gas, and the cycle goes back again. So it winds up collecting as much heat as it can from the outside air, and then goes into the compressor again.
Is Kevin still on? Kevin
Kevin
might be able to answer any of those, real technical. But I thought you did a great job.
Hey, I'm here.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. No,
You
it,
wanted to do this on a Sunday afternoon, didn't you? Nice seeing you.
yeah, no, this worked out good, and I'm glad how many of everyone else is here. I mean, we've got a good turnout. This is exciting. So yeah, I mean, that's you pretty much nailed it, John. Heat exchange happens outside. You've got your compressor and the refrigeration cycle. You're basically extracting thermal energy even when the temperature is low, concentrating it through the refrigeration cycle and rejecting it into the house as a much higher temperature.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Evan. Is there anything else you want to talk about the project here that you think we should tell people while we've got you on?
Well, the question came up for a minute there, duct work versus ductless, and you know, the cost and benefits of that. I can touch on that a little bit. If you have existing work in your house, sometimes a ducted unit might make sense. And the nice things about the ducted systems, this is kind of just a average. It's, you know, I run a specific estimation for every project, but on average, I see that if you're trading off a space for 3 ductless units compared to 1 ducted unit with existing ductwork, typically the ducted unit is a better buy, but that's kind of the tipping point, is it's equal to like 3 ductless units. So if you have a space that only needs 1 ductless unit, then that's going to be the better buy, even if you have existing ductwork. But there's a tipping point. That's where it is. It's about a 3-unit trade-off. The other nice thing about ductwork units is they have backup electric strip heats in them. You know, of course, you know, with John and Maggie's system, it's all ductless, and like they said, it heats great year round. And we have a lot of other homes that are the same, all ductless, no backup, and they heat very well. But it's sometimes an advantage as well to just have that backup electric in there.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And anybody who wants to ask more questions or wants to come over and see the system in person, please contact me. And I will send out to everybody the link to it in the climate group, and anybody else who wants it. If you have friends that are interested, please feel free to jump and give it to them. But we were really happy to see so many people come on and ask so many questions. Not quite an open house in person, but someday we'll get there and have everybody at our house again without a mask when it's appropriate. But yeah, we'll really look forward to seeing everybody at the house. Yeah, thanks for joining us.
It was great.
Thank you. Well,
Thanks,
don't turn
everyone.
off yet.
Mhm.
Thank you, John and Maggie.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.